Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf, NIDAH Samach Beis. We begin at the Mishnah on Samach Aleph Amud Beis towards the bottom. Shiva Samonin Mavir Ala Kesem. As we mentioned briefly yesterday, there are 7 cleansing agents, 7 detergents, which one can apply to a stain, and it accomplishes twofold. First of all, it will determine for you, will decide for you whether it's a stain, whether it's a blood stain, or just a paint, a dye stain, which of course is no issue. And this will be the litmus test. If this treatment weakens the stain, it fades it, or removes it completely, that confirms it to be a blood stain. Whereas if it stays stubbornly intact, most likely it is merely tseva, benign dye, paint stain. That's first of all. And secondly, once the blood stain had been treated in this manner, that will be mevatal, the effect of that. It will deactivate it. Rashi says, "She'ein hadam botel ad she'aviru kulon olav." By applying these 7 samon, you are being mevatal. You're weakening the effect of the stain. Even if there's some residual color, some mark left behind, some trace of the stain, but the core of the stain, the essence, has already been removed, and that stain is no longer an issue. Otherwise, the stain would be metame, right? Because when Isha has a stain, it has a twofold effect. First of all, she's tamei midrabanan, and secondly, the material, the dam itself, dam NIDAH, will convey tumah to the item on which it's situated. And once taharis that were involved with that garment, so let's say the garment on which there was a kesem touched some bananas, they become tummy. Not so once the stain had been treated with these 7 samon. Once again, says Mishnah, Shiva samonim avir ala kesem. You place these 7 agents atop the stain as follows. Roig, very exotic, some of them very exotic ingredients. Roig tafel, raw saliva. Right in the morning, before you eat anything, that saliva has extra potency, extra acidity, or whatever, and it will have a profound effect on the stain. Umeg risen, juice from chewed beans, split beans, meraglaim, wastewater, vanessa, some type of cleansing agent, ubayris, a different type, kamonia. We turn to the next amud, va'ashla, for a total of 7. It says the Mishnah, let's say, discovered a stain on the bag. They haven't yet determined whether it's dam NIDAH or just merely a harmless, paint stain. V'asal gav taharis, and you use the garment with bananas, and then hevir olav shiva samon v'lo yavar. Then you decide to treat it, the 7 aforementioned agents, and there was no movement on the stain. Haris etzeva. That confirms it as a harmless paint stain, in which case, ha-taharis taharis, the items which interacted with this beged beforehand are tahar, unaffected. Ve'netzarach lahatbil. There's no need to re-immerse the beged in the mikvah because it's a harmless, paint stain. But let's say avar oishadiha, after you apply the 7 samonin, the stain disappears, or at the weekend it faded. Oh, harez kesem. We presume it to be a blood stain of a dam NIDAH, of a taharis tmeis, and those bananas are now tamei because they interacted with a beged that had tumah v'tzarach lahatbil. And after you go through this process, you have to re-immerse the beged in the mikvah to be matayirit. Okay, now in terms of the specifics of those 7 detergents, Ezo Roig Tafel, how do you define Roig Tafel? Kol shaloi tam klum, before he ate anything. So that raw saliva. Make grisen, what is that? Lisas grisen shall pull. Chalukas nafesh, the juice from chewed grisen are half pulled, half beans. Chalukas nafesh, separated from their skins. Meraglaim, what is that? Sheikh mitzu, after a while they become putrid and they become acidic, and for each of these agents, you have to do a 3-time scrub, right, back and forth, in order to, affect the stain. Let's say you applied all 7, but out of order. not in sequence. Or you put all 7 true on one shot. It's ineffective. You have to redo it in a proper sequence because each progressive, agent builds on the effect of the one prior to it. It's a successive build-up. Tana, we learned in the Brisa in terms of further defining the various ingredients. What is the Nesser? That's from Alexandria, a certain type of Alexandria. Not the other one, not the Nesser from Tapatris, from a different place. What is Bayrus? Amar Yud is that's aloe. Really? Vatani of a Brisa, which refers to both of them. Apparently, they're not the same thing. Ha-Bayrus, and then Va'oil. Elamai, Bayrus. So what are you suggesting? Bayrus is Kabrisa, that's sulfur? V'raminu of a kasha, because then it's not something which grows. And in terms of halachos of Shemitah, which are limited to plants, growing plants, it wouldn't apply to sulfur, which is merely a soil element. They added to the list of items, plants that are subject to the halachos of Shemitah. So if they grow in the 7th year, they have a certain kedusha, and you have to treat them accordingly. What are these? Halavitzin, valunin, all kinds of plants, bitter plants, etc. Vabayris, there you go. Vabayris, va'oil. Now, if bayrus, according to you, is sulfur, why would it be on this list of Shvius-related items? It's not something that grows. It's not a plant. V'bayrus kavrisa mi'islei Shvius. Since when does sulfur have Shemitah issues? Vatnami, of a Mishnah or Bryce, Vatanya zaklal. Here's the rule: kol sheyesh le'ikor, something which has a root in the ground. It's a plant. It's something which is organic. Yesh le'shvius. But otherwise, it's just soil in the ground. So how could sulfur be subject to Shemitah? Elamai, bayrus Allah. Okay, so let's go back to the earlier suggestion, which is that bayrus is really aloe, which is a plant. But we have the other brisa, which lists bayrus and oil as separate items. The answer is there are 2 variations of aloe. One is called Allah directly, one is called bayrus. What is kamonya? Some sort of plant used for washing, for cleansing. Va'ashlak, what is that? I asked around those sea travelers, those international, travelers. Did you ever encounter this type of, agent? They told me, yeah, ashlaga shmei. It's called ashlaga. And where do you find it? In the crevices of the pearls. Mushtakach, it's found between the crevices of the pearls. Umapkil, how do you extract it? With some sort of metal tool, baramtza, with a fork, some sort of extractor. The parts are made of iron. Okay, so you have this stain. You added the 7 ingredients, no movement. And then you came with the Grand Slam Tzafon. You took the paint remover, V'avar, and the stain disappears. So you would think it's paint, right? Tarois of Tmeyos, the bananas that were used with this garment prior to the stain being removed is Tameh. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Safon, this paint remover, Sevanami Maver. It removes even paint. So why would you be concerned about the stain? You see that it wasn't affected by the 7 samana, which typically do cleanse a blood stain, only by this turpentine, by this special. Ella, rather, the story was like this, a bit different. Hevel of Shisha Saman. He didn't put all 7, only 6, and he stopped short. And the stain did not show any movement. So it's very likely that if only he would have added the 7th one, that would have done the trick. But instead he diverted to the turpentine. Hever olav tzafon. He took the paint remover, and the stain cleaned up. Taroset tmeis. We have to be matame those bananas. Why? Because it's very possible she'im hever shvi mitchila. If only initially he would have done the 7th agent as well, he wouldn't have stopped at 6 and then switched over to the tzafon. He would have gone to the end of the 7, Shem Avar. Perhaps it would have cleaned up the stain. You'll never know. So the chiddush is, even though there was no movement by number 6, so all the way to 6 and still no movement, you never know. Maybe number 7 would have been the clincher, and since he never got to that point, he'll never know. You have to treat it as Tameh. Tani Yidach, another brayso, a very interesting halacha coming up. Hever olav shiva saman. He did all 7, and the stain is still stubbornly in place. So it leads us to assume that it's most likely paint. Now, this fellow was overly concerned about his stain, and he wants to get rid of it just in case, it's dam NIDAH shanan. he repeated the process again, and this time he did the trick. Va'avar, and the stain is gone. Taharis of taharis. So the fruit, the taharis, which interacted with this garment, atar. Rashi says, you know why? Because if it was blood, it would have been cleaned up the first time around. Amar Rav Zera leishanu. Here comes Rav Zera with a big chidush. She says, which fruit are spared of tumah? Ella only hataharis. Those fruit shenasu ben tachboises rishon elashniya. So let's break it down. Let's make a schedule. So Sunday, we discovered a stain. He applied the full 7-step treatment. No movement on the stain. Monday, he wrapped some apples in this sack, in this garment. Tuesday, he decided, you know what? Let's get to work again. Let's try to make another attempt at removing the stain. This time he did the 7-step treatment and it worked. The Brisa says the apples are okay. It says Reb Zera only apples on Monday. But suppose he reused the same sack on Wednesday, meaning after his second attempt, he again used it for bananas or apples. But the taharis that were used with this garment after the second washing, which means after Tuesday. So Wednesday, taharis of tummy, these apples are tummy. You know why? The fact is, when he rewashed it, Rashi says, he was megala daitoi. He expressed an indication of concern that perhaps it is dam. That's why he's so infatuated and so driven to clean it up. And the fact is, it did work. It worked the second time around. So we have to give it status of blood. Some say it's a chumrah midrabanan because it appears like in fact it was really blood because of his concern and added investment and effort in removing it. So until you tovel it, we presume the beggar is tummy because of that stain. And the taharis are tummy as well. We turn to Rabbi Amar Lei. So this is a surprising halacha. Amar Lei, Rabbi Abba, Rabbi Ashi. Who cares about his concern? Is it dam or is it not dam? So who cares about his particularity? Look, the fact is, Monday's apples are okay. Apparently, we established that it's not really dam. How could it be that suddenly on Wednesday the apples are tummy that are now we consider it as dam? Amalei says, yeah, personal preference does play a big role in determining the status of stains. And therefore, in this case, since he expressed concern, we view it as dam going forward. Amalei says, the Sani, in fact, of a brisa that highlights this point. Tanya B'chia Eimer. Dam NIDAH v'adai. So up until now, we spoke about doubtful situations, uncertainties. We found a stain, origin unknown. Let's say you have certainly dam NIDAH on a beged. So as we explained before, if it's treated properly with the 7 samana, it's mavatal, to the point that you can now take it to the mikvah, the beged to the mikvah, and it's okay. Even though you have some sort of trace there, we disregard it. So we see that personal hakpada, or in this case, lack of hakpada, lack of concern, disregard for the stain on a personal, on a mental level, affects its halachic status. Likewise, in our case, kapeda is a factor at play. He runs the 7 things, and it's mavadl. The fact is, it's dam NIDAH, and you see it. Fine, it's faded, but it's still there. Dam NIDAH alma, apparently b'kpeda talmilsa. In these matters, it does get determined by personal preference, achanami here as well. And since he's not caring anymore about the stain, so it becomes nullified, null and void. Achanami here as well. In our case, it's the opposite. B'kpeda talmilsa. Status of the material hinges upon his personal attitude, which in this case gives it status. It's not hustling. Okay, speaking about tumah matters that are embedded, that are absorbed within other materials. Non hustling. I have an interesting Mishnah in Maseches Kelim. Charas. So you have the earthenware containers. Rashi says, a container used for wastewater, of a zav or zava. We know that their ma'ayonis, their wellspring, so to speak, their personal fluids, bodily fluids, like meraglayim, have a very severe tumah. They're considered an ava tumah. Given tamei people and kalim. As opposed to ordinary liquids, which become tamei, they don't have the ability to convey tumah to a kli. Only the rabbanon. So now you have the charas in these earthenware containers. Shunishtamish ben zav, used by a zav. Shabala mashka, who are known to have absorbed liquids which are tamei. It's not out in the open, it's inside the material, inside the wall of the container, deep inside. V'naflu, and these materials, these cheres, naflu they fell into the airspace of a earthenware oven, which, as we know, kli cheres becomes tamei even by way of its airspace. So if it contains some tumah in its airspace, the tanner should become tamei. But here the tumah is not apparent. It's not out in the open. It's embedded. It's absorbed in the cheres, which is now in the tanner. And the tanner got heated up, which now, due to the heat, will extract, will expel, and reveal the liquids within the cheres. Hatanur tames. The tanner is not tames. Shesayv mashkalash lotzis. Because ultimately, when you heat something up, right, the liquid will come out, and that's what happened here. It's out in the open. It's no longer embedded. Tanner is tamei. However, if there was no heating going on, and the mashkin is still deep inside, okay, mashka which is balua, like any tumah which is balua, which is embedded and swallowed into another entity, is not reckoned with, and will not affect the tanner. Amarish lakish leshona. It's only true. When do we say that absorbed and embedded liquids are unharmful? Leshona el mashkan kalan. It's only by lighter liquids, meaning a regular mashka, which is metame only the rabbanon, mashkan kalim. So if it's in there, leave it alone. Of mashkan chamurin, but the high level tumah, like the meraglayim of azav, tamei afal b'shlo like a tanner, that will convey tumah even before heating up the oven. The fact is, it's in there, and since it could be extracted, Rashi says, since there's a way to get it out by heating up the tanner, so technically it's not classified as tumah b'lua. It's not considered swallowed up. It's right there, in the open. Look, just light the fire, you'll see it'll come out. Okay, so according to Shlakish, by mashkan chamurim, we view it as though it's revealed in the open. Whereas by mashkan kalim, it has to actually come out to be a concern. Rabbi Yechon Omar, either way, no concern. Echad mashkan kalim, echad mashkan chamurim, whether it's light or heavy, imhu sagatan in, if there was, heat and the liquid got extracted, it's out in the open, fine, I agree it's a concern. In Eloi, but otherwise, leave it alone. Okay, so conclusion, by mashkin kalim, all agree, if it's still inside, no concern. By mashkin chamurim, Rechon says, until it comes out, leave it alone. According to Shlakish, if there is a possibility, if there's potential for it to come out, it's extractable, viewed as though it's outside, and it's metame accordingly. Eis Rabbi Yechon has a kasha, L'Rish Lakish, who said that it's metame even though it's inside. We had the Mishnah before, Itbiloi v'asa gava taharis. He discovered a stain on a garment, origin unknown. Is it blood stain? Is it paint stain? He used it with the tahar materials, and then he decided to treat it with the 7 v'hevrel of zayin saman v'loi davar, and the stain remained in place. That confirms it's most likely, not for sure, but most likely paint, and we treat it accordingly. Tarais of Torahs, and the apples are spared. There's no need to be toivel the garment again. Okay, so what's the kasha? So Rashi explains, the fact is, true, those 7 agents had no effect on the stain. They didn't get it out. But Safan, our friend Safan, can get them out. Right? That strong, paint remover can still get them out. So it's extractable. Okay, so now How can we just assume that it's not dam NIDAH, that it's tar? The fact is, it's not conclusive. True, it's a stubborn stain, but maybe it is dam NIDAH. And since you can get it out, it should still convey tumah. According to Rish Lakish, who says that something which is chomer, material, liquids, which have high-level tumah, amatami, even though they're embedded deep inside. Rish Lakish says, hanach l'ksam d'rabbanan. The reason why we bank on the lenient approach is because the reason why we bank on the assumption that it's a paint stain, not a blood stain, is because to begin with, this whole issue is in d'rabbanan. The fact is, there was no hargasha on this dam, it was just a stain discovered on the beged. To begin with, it's only a rabbinic concern, which allows for some element of leniency, such as in this case where it's most likely a paint stain. We treat it as such. Ask the Gemara, okay, but now what about that brayso that we quoted before? By bona fide dam NIDAH, established dam NIDAH without a doubt. He teaches us in the brayso, dam NIDAH v'adai. If it's an established dam NIDAH, maver olav zayin saman mevadlo. Just run the 7 things and it's batal, done. What do you mean? You can still extract it with that soften agent. Let it still retain its tumah. Amar leis. So Rish Lakish says you're right. I disagree with the brayso. Look, Rebbe Loshana, Rebbe, who was the teacher of Rabbi Chia, never ever mentioned that idea in the Mishnah. So how did his student Rabbi Chia, Manoli, how did he get it? So you're right, it's something I disagree with. Another kasha, revius dam shenivlu b'bayis. So a revius quantity of the dam of a mace is mitzame, anything under the same roof. So let's say it's in a bayis, it's in a house, in a room, in the ground. It got swallowed into the ground. The bayis tame, anything in the room is tame. Some say bayis tar, anything in the room is okay. But there's no machlek between these two versions. It's simply a question of sequence, of timing. So what happened was, on Sunday there was a couch in this room. Monday the blood came, spilled onto the floor, got absorbed. So the couch becomes tummy because it was there when the blood was still in a liquid form. Whereas if a piano shows up on Tuesday, after the blood had been absorbed in the ground, there is no blood intact to speak of. So the 2 days piano is okay. So there is no machlekes between these two braysos, whether the kelim are tahor or tummy. How became mikara? The brayso which says that the kli in the room is tummy, that's the kli that was there when the blood was being brought into the room. How became basoif? The brayso which says the kli is tahor, that's the kli that only showed up after post absorption. In which case the blood was no longer intact. The brayso continues. Instead of the dam being absorbed into the ground, it was absorbed into a garment. It depends if it's easily extractable. If you have an easy way, standard laundering process to extract the revius of dam, then tmeya, it's still considered active and a metam. If lab otherwise, Torah. So even though revius got in there, but there's no way to get the full revius out, because even when you wash it, only part of it will come out, part of it will stay inside. Then it deactivates the tumah. So what's the question? So Rashi says, through a standard laundering process, you can't get the full revius, but through our fen safan, you'll still get them out. Apparently, we don't reckon with that. So even though there is some method of extraction, the tumah is batal in there. That's a kasha Rish Lakish who says something which has a severe level of tumah, like revius of a mace, is mitame, as long as there's some way to get them out. Rav Kahana, once again, we're talking about the Rabbanon here, which allows for leniencies. Mikule reviya shanukan. We're talking about a revius dam, but a lighter revius. One which has a lighter level of tumah. How's that? Shani dam tvusa the Rabbanon. I'm not speaking about standard dam of a mace, which contains the life force of a mace. We're speaking about dam tvusa. Rashi brings Gemara that describes what dam tvusa is. So basically, the dam which left the mace after death, that's matame minatora. But the dam that came out still while he was alive is not matame. And here you have some and some. It came out, it started while he was alive, then eventually passed away, and the rest came out. So you're not sure the majority of this revius when it came out, so it's only a suffix mitamim d'Rabbanan. So in this case, we're lenient and we say, look, if a standard laundering process will not extract the full revius, we disregard it. But in fact, if it's bona fide tumah min ha-Torah, says Rish Lakish, of course, if you can get him out, there's a way to get him out. So even though he's still in there, he's still embedded in there, he's still fully conveying his tumah. Esvei comes a kasha presented by Rish Lakish, this time the Rabbi Yochanan. So we have a brayso like this. It's a Mishnah actually. Kol ha-balua, Mishnah always. Kol ha-balua, she'einu yachal latzeis tar. So any tummy material which is embedded, which is absorbed within another entity, with no way of getting out, she'einu yachal latzeis tar, that deactivates it. We infer from here, however, yachal latzeis is tummy, but if there's a way to get him out, he's still considered a conveyor of tumah, even though he's not out yet. That supports Rish Lakish's opinion. Amar Papa. Look, it's not one size fits all. It depends on the various elements involved. Amar Papa. Let's say you can't get him out, and the owner disregards it. Okay, let it stand. He doesn't really care about it. The Ivrei all agree. Even Rish Lakish agrees. It became absorbed in his host entity, and he's null and void. Tahor. On the other side of the spectrum, let's say you can get him out, and you want him out. The Ivrei called Tamei. Even Rabbi Yochanan agrees in this case. He's considered an active entity, and he's Tamei. Keep pligi. The machlekes is only somewhere in between. One-on-one. There's a way to extract him. But the owner doesn't really care about getting him out. Let him stay in there. So what determines? The nature of the material or the attitude of the owner? Mar Savar. Rish Lakish looks at the actual tumah essence. Mar Savar, kibin diachalotze, since the essence of tumah can leave the host entity, so he's his own independent entity. Even though the owner doesn't really, not too particular about it, it's metame. It retains its independent standing, independent status, and still conveys its tumah. Such as in the case of the the cheres and all those cases that Rish Lakish apply tumah to. Umar Savar. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says it's all about the attitude of the owner. Even though the tumah material can be extracted, can come out, it all depends on the owner's attitude. If he wants it out, then it maintains its independence and conveys its tumah. But otherwise, it becomes absorbed, becomes nullified into his host environment, and deactivates its tumah. And when the Brisa said, the Mishnah that we quoted said that if it can't be taken out, it's tamei, that's only coupled with the fact that the owner is being makbid. So this was a kasha to Rabbi Yochanan, right? The answer is, that's talking about when the owner wants it out. But who's to say that if he's not makbid, it will still maintain its tumah as per Rish Lakish's position. Okay, so conclusion. What about tumah which has been absorbed in some other entity, like the meraglaim of Azav and the charasim, like all the other examples of the dam and the garment, the revius of the mace, and all those things, the karka, and the ksus, etc. So again, if it's something which can't come out, and the Gemara adds, can't come out, and he doesn't really care about having it come out. Some actually take that off, delete that point, because if it can't come out, all agree it's Torah, whether or not he cares about it. It's inextractable. It's part and parcel of his host environment. So all agree in that case, null and void. It's batal, and its tumah is deactivated. On the other side of the spectrum, all agree that if he can get it out, and he wants it out, you have to reckon with it. The question is somewhere in the middle. It can come out, like the meraglaim of the cheres, but he's not really too particular about getting it out. That's subject to machlokes between Rish Lakish, who says, look, the fact is you can't consider part and parcel of a tortuous environment if you can come out. You have to reckon with it as an independent Tumah entity. Whereas Rechna says it's all about the owner's attitude. If he doesn't care, if he's not makbid, leave it in there, then it loses its Tumah. We also pointed out that even according to Rish Lakish, who applies Tumah in this case, but if it's the Rabbanon, like the case of the Kasem there, the case of Antvusa, you could apply Yakula and deem it to be Tahar as well. Okay, in the beginning of the daf we learned about the 7 saman and 7 detergents, 7 cleansing agents which are applied to a stain, which have a twofold effect. First of all, it can allow you to tell the difference between a blood stain and a paint stain. And secondly, it will be mevatel the tumah of that stain. We've spoken at great length about all the different samanim and what they are. We had an interesting chiddush in the Gemara, the case where he applied those 7 once and again. According to one shita, the fact that he applied it repeatedly indicates a greater element of concern, kpeda, which will restore its status and give it tumah, since we do find that kpeda is a relevant factor in these equations. All the best to you and hatzlacha.